Welcome back, everyone, to episode 3 of Compassion Through Conversation. I'm one of your hosts, Jack Quattararo, alongside with me, Camilla, Jamie, and Haley. And today we have two guests from our research group, and they're here to introduce themselves, Molly and Kathleen. So, Molly or Kathleen, who wants to start off?
Molly, take it away.
Hi, I'm Molly. I'm part of the research group. I'm from Falmouth, Massachusetts, and yeah, public relations is my major and management is my minor. My God.
My name is Kathleen, or Kat, whatever floats your boat, doesn't bother me. I'm from Robbinsville, New Jersey. I'm a double major, communication, media studies, public relations, and I'm also in the 4+1 program for public relations as well. And yeah, part of the research team. So
Awesome. And then for the research team, what have you guys been conducting so far through all of your research?
So far we conducted a survey that was sent out to 142 people through the Quinnipiac community. And we've also been looking up different articles. We've been looking up different schools social medias to see what they're doing about Asian American awareness on their campus. And I don't know if Kathleen wants to add in anything.
Yeah, so pretty much that I've seen from past experience as well, being on the student government, is that there is, this lengthy list of other colleges, universities, and these are kind of the schools that we want to emulate, and what are they doing right and how can we kind of reflect that into our school. So pretty much what Molly said as well is, besides doing the main research of sending out a survey or doing a focus group that we're actually going to be conducting later on today, we're kind of looking past that and kind of seeing again, what are other schools doing? How are they advocating? How are they doing things? And is it working? Is it not working? And then trying to kind of find a way to construct that into our own campaign overall.
Yeah, no, that's great. Do you guys feel that while you're doing all this research for our campaign, you're at the same time educating yourself on this issue?
Most definitely. I think I didn't realize what an issue it was, not only on our campus, but in the world as together. But I think definitely I'm learning from our results from different students on campus and from other campuses that this is a big issue in today's society.
I think kind of adding on to that as well, especially in the real deep lockdown that we had ending kind of into our last semester as far as spring semester, you kind of see it a lot in media as well, but there's also so much other things that have been going on that you almost kind of feel like this was kind of not really as talked about. And, when we were in those early stages trying to figure out what we really wanted to do for the campaign, this was something that, we all agreed on that really hasn't been brought up, really hasn't been educated, I feel like, to a lot of people. So I definitely feel that there's a lot of knowledge that's being learned. And I mean, I'm always one to kind of preach this is, knowledge is power. So with that being said, really kind of seeing even just the results and stuff and how much other people, we have our own opinions and thoughts as well, but even just looking at what we've been getting back for our results for this survey, it's kind of one of those things where it's like, oh wow, they're kind of agreeing with what I'm thinking. And even we were thinking up these questions of, one simply as, how do you feel on campus? Do you feel like there is a diverse campus environment and things just even like that? So it's definitely really interesting overall to kind of see the things that we may not have even initially thought of, that's really kind of being folded or unfolded before our eyes. So
yeah, no, that's really interesting you say that, because you guys are learning through your research. And then for us, we had Rachel on our last podcast, and just hearing what she had to say and what her club kind of goes through and what she's gone through. We've been learning a lot through that too. What has been the hardest part of the research portion? If there is, and if you guys find anything hard, people or coming up with the questions, stuff like that.
I think two things. I think coming up with the questions was a little bit challenging for us because we wanted to make it extremely direct and make sure that we are getting the correct responses when asking students at Quinnipiac how they felt about Asian Americans and this whole issue because of COVID on campus.
I feel like even coming up with questions, pretty much what Molly was saying, it's, in other classes having to, make surveys, you kind of more have different topics. So for example, I had one that was solely about Tesla and, Tesla vehicles and kind of more of that customer service of, do you like them? Would you ever get one? And, this is just obviously something that is completely different. And I'm personally one to like taking on a challenge, and I'm sure Molly can agree with that, as well as Joe, as far as our full research team. So, it's definitely interesting again. It's definitely my favorite word, interesting. So I definitely think that it's really interesting to see how much we're learning, but at the same time, how even though something as simple as making a survey really kind of will make you, kind of have like that head scratching moment of, what can we do and what can we implement? And even we were trying to brainstorm having more of an open discussion questions for our focus group that we're going to have later. It's just even then, it's definitely going to be hard in a way, because sometimes with certain respondents or participants that we're going to have in the focus group, certain conversations may steer the other way. And I think it'll definitely be up to us to kind of keep mitigating that and making sure that we're on the right path. So, with any open discussion, you may have a really good conversation that, again, Molly, myself, Joe haven't even thought of, which definitely can steer us in a different direction. And we'll, of course, be open to that. But I think it'll just almost be, I think that'll be like the hardest part. It's just making sure that we're kind of all staying on the right track. And I definitely am sure I can speak that for myself, because I definitely have the Dory mindset where I'm kind of bopping around everywhere. So I definitely think it'll be that may be a little bit difficult, but overall, I think it's been, of course, very smooth for us.
Do you think that the underrepresentation of Asian individuals at Quinnipiac has also made your research a little bit difficult? I know that at least for us, the podcast group, if it weren't for the Asian American Student Association at Quinnipiac, our podcast would have been a lot more difficult to kind of put together. And if we didn't have Rachel on our last episode, who kind of put almost all the pieces together for us in a lot of ways, educated us in a lot of ways. Do you think that just like the misrepresentation of Asian Americans as a whole at Quinnipiac is causes some problems with your research as well?
Going off that, yes. One of our questions in our survey actually asked like if like students think that more needs to be done on campus, and a lot of people said yes. And going off your like the podcast from last week, I learned so much from Rachel, and I think that her group and what she's offering to the Quinnipiac community needs to be more represented, because I didn't know any of that information until she told us. So I think that the Quinnipiac community really needs to know more about her association.
Again, just I agree 100% with that, with everything that Molly said. And then just even kind of looking into our focus group questions, going from a survey, it's more of kind of, like yes, no, do you agree, disagree, where do you kind of stand on things? And it's more of kind of like really going to be that objective versus subjective. So I think it'll even be great to see how this focus group is going to go, because even, our first off the bat question is, how would you describe the multicultural climate on our campus? So instead of saying, more of a direct answer, we're really hopefully going to get more of a generalized answer overall. But I think definitely, as far as the research goes, it definitely would have been harder if we didn't have this research that was already done and these great sources that we have. I mean, I think we definitely would have had to almost rely more on other campuses and maybe any groups that they had. So I definitely think that we lucked out having one on campus for sure.
I guess getting more into like the technical aspects of your research, do you want to just give like a rundown as far as like, I know you said you're using, I conducted a survey, but have you used any other like research applications or like softwares to kind of like help you with your research, or just like the overall just like work that you guys have been doing?
So we've been looking at like the Instagram to like see how many different like followers we've been getting, along with just like going off of like different schools, like their social media account to see like what they're posting and what we can do to like make more awareness. Kathleen, I don't know if you have anything to add in. I know this was like one of your parts for the project.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so of course, definitely looking at our own social media, the other schools, like Molly said, but even just going past that for our other research that we've done heavily, we've been using Statista and really just taking even the data that's been used through other people's research that's been on there. And, it's definitely been helpful and, good for us, because it definitely helped us along the way as far as really kind of seeing those numbers and helping us form our questions. But of course, on the other end, unfortunate that, kind of what we were, having this whole abstracted, idea of this hypothesis of, there really isn't this diversity that we really want on campus. And, everything, it's kind of like the downfall of the research is knowing that everything we of course have been hypothesizing and everything that we're kind of saying is like, I think this is really what the case is, and what can we do to change it. It's kind of sad seeing how true it is, but I think on an optimistic side, that's really what it's coming down to in the campaign is, what can we do and how can we be that voice and kind of strengthen the voice that we already have on campus. So I think this statistic definitely helped us a lot for our research too, and definitely backing it up. But I mean, as far as really software, we've just been really, using like Google Docs, Google Forms, of course, keeping everything together and keeping all of us informed. And then of course, for what we plan on doing with the focus group is, having that consent. We plan on doing the same thing like we're doing right now, having a Zoom meeting, and then just really jotting down notes as well for any super important stuff that we want to really get that message out from our participants.
Yeah, going off that, I mean, you kind of answered my question that I was going to ask, but like how you guys been talking about the focus group you're going to do, and I'm excited to join, kind of be a fly on the wall so I can like bring it to the podcast next week. But how are you expected to like run that? Like, are you guys like asking questions and then having people answer them? Like how many people are going to be in the focus group?
So I think right now we have 7 participants for this afternoon. We're going to like rotate saying questions and like obviously waiting for responses, and then Kat's probably going to take down some notes.
Is there a consent form that you guys have to like send out before? Because I know for other focus groups I've done, like they've always like asked me like, is it okay?
Of course.
I didn't know if you guys like had to do the same.
Yeah, so we're going to read something off in the beginning, and then we're going to get verbal consent from all participants.
So going off of that, do you guys think that you're going to get good responses from the focus group, like answers that you need, that you're looking for?
Yeah, I think I'm really hopeful that we will get a lot of good answers from this. It is like a smaller group, but I do think that it's like such a prominent issue that a lot of people have different things to say, which I'm excited to hear about.
Kind of adding on to that as well, in our case too, it was more of that we're actually selectively picking people. So we are, picking people for Joe's case. I believe that he said, he's getting some of his teammates in. And Molly, I know you messaged tons of your group chats as well to kind of see maybe who's around during that same time slot, and myself as well. And I think it's just at least, again, with that whole like selective subjective picking, is you're kind of picking those people too that are going to have something to bring to the table, or at least something to say, and really kind of keep a conversation going. So kind of what I was harping on a little bit earlier, it's really going to be on that, having that mediator. So I think we all pretty much agreed on, if again, when the conversation starts going elsewhere, that's maybe, again, for example, it's really on the Asian Americans in regarding COVID-19, but maybe if we start going off this, side trail of the vaccines that are in COVID-19, and that's great by all means, but if it's not really going to be benefiting the focus group as a whole, then we're going to kind of have to pull back the reins on that and really kind of refocus where we're going to be heading. But the people that I know that I personally chose, they've unfortunately had the pleasure of working on other focus groups with me as well, and they've definitely offered a lot of great things to the table. So that's why, again, selectively choosing that was my first choice. So pretty much like you said, Kimmy, yeah, I'm really excited. I think it's going to be super cool to see what people have to say. And especially having different groups of campus, it's not all these, a bundled group of people that could all be in this same class, or, all teammates, or all maybe in a sorority, a frat, or something like that. So we're really having this even diverse group right there of, someone that, for example, the person I'm going to have has been on the rugby team, has been on SGA, has a lot of different ties in campus. And I'm sure Molly can agree on, her participants as well as Joe too. So I think it'll just be very, very, positive overall. And I think we're definitely going to get a lot of good information from it too.
Yeah, I think it's going to be great, Kathleen and Molly, because like you guys were saying, you're going to reach such a wider audience than we've been doing with the podcast so far. Like, it was great to have Rachel on, and she talked about everything she's done so far with ASA and stuff like that. So this is going to be really cool to see. And I just can't wait to see what you guys, all the information you pull in.
I think we're good. I think you guys answer all our questions.
Thank you once again, Molly and Kathleen, for coming on Compassion Through Conversation. This was a third episode. We appreciate you guys sharing your knowledge and wealth with us, and we hope to see you on maybe another episode someday down the road.
Thank you.
Hopefully we'll be a little bit better. But thank you for having us. We appreciate it.
No worries, guys. Thank you once again, and we'll see you all on the next episode of Compassion Through Conversation. Thank you all.